Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. As always, I'm Brian Doyle here with you today. I'm going to kick off. This gentleman I got the opportunity to see as we're recording this about a week ago down at IT Nation, and I remembered we haven't had him on except for Pitch It, I think, Bobby, right?
I think that's
In the
right.
past.
Good to be here, Brian.
Yeah, so I want to introduce Bobby Jacobs to those of you that might not know him, which would be a surprise today from Thread. But yeah, I said, Bobby, we got to have you on as you and not as Pitch It. So welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here. IT Nation was awesome. We did have this conversation at Pitch It where we saw some new winners and contestants, which was,
Yep.
was a great time.
Yeah, definitely. Sean and the crew do a great job with that program every year, and this year was another great one for them. Really happy to see how that program continues to move along. But Bobby, for the few that might not know you, why don't you take them through a little bit of your background and how you got into the world of MSP and today with Thread?
Sure. Yeah, I have an undergrad in entrepreneurship from University of Houston. Just won Best Undergrad Entrepreneurship 7th year in a row. So
Woo!
plug for the Wolf Center. Um, I love starting things and working with new technology. I sold servers really early in my career for about 6 months. Got to work with some resellers and stuff there. It was a terrible company, but learned a lot. And then I got plugged into kind of the startup hub in Houston. At the time, it was called Station Houston. I was was helping startups connect with investors and mentors and all kinds of stuff. And one of those companies that I met there was LionGuard. Joe and Vin were working out of the same space and got to watch LionGuard grow early on for a couple of years. I knew that I wanted to get into software more formally. And so when LionGuard started to really get some traction, Joe gave me the opportunity to make the jump. I had a vague understanding of what MSPs really were at that point. That was probably 7, 8 years ago now. So, been to hundreds of conferences since then and gotten to spend a lot of time with some cool MSPs.
Yeah, it's you have been on the road a ton. I wonder how you keep yourself in shape during all that time with all the wonderful food that we know we get at conferences, right? But
Yeah, you gotta be healthy. It's we could probably do a whole series of life on the road, and I don't know. I try to be home as much as I can, which isn't easy.
so now you're over at Thread, and obviously, I think many folks are familiar with them. But one of the things I will say that I enjoy about Thread is you guys always have some creative marketing going on, and definitely are keeping people entertained while making them better.
Yeah, being radical is a core value across the board at Thread. Like we like to say, like, hey, we don't want linear solutions. We don't want to say, hey, I have this problem. Here's the obvious way to fix it. Is there a more radical way to fix it? Could you do something in a more intense way? It doesn't always dressing up as pirates and jumping in
No,
pools and getting tattoos at your booth. It can be, hey, can we not just improve how you do time entries a little bit? Can we reimagine what time entries looks like as a way to work? For example, so the radical core value is something you have to work at. We start planning for IT Nation and in May or June typically because that's kind of where we go the biggest for the year. But yeah, it's something we make sure goes through the whole company.
well, the reality is you could have the greatest marketing in the world and, you could have all the fun and games, but if the product isn't bringing value to the MSP community, it wouldn't matter. So,
Yeah.
the reality is while there's all the great things that you do to keep us all entertained, the truth is the product has really done a good job of, streamlining service delivery and helping, those MSPs do better, right? And that's really what we're all trying to do as vendors in some way, shape, or forms.
Yeah, and once you have a good product, software vendor, MSP, if you're selling a service or a product and it's a great product, then it's your responsibility to help as many people know about it as possible so you can help those people, right? And for us, being in person at a conference wearing a pirate costume that relates to the problem that we're solving helps us let more people know about the pain and then the problem. And there's a lot of MSPs that do that really well too. Marketing's not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's tough to come up with, those new ideas that really can strike, right? Because there is so much noise that you have to cut through out there, and you guys have done a real good job of that. And I think that kind of dovetails a little bit into what we were talking about before, we went on air today, Bobby, and that's kind of the changing landscape of the MSP community overall. I know you've got some thoughts around that. Maybe you can kick off the conversation and kind of start with what you're seeing.
Sure. Yeah. Today it is a super exciting time to be in business, especially a services business in technology. But it's also risky. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many great peer groups out there and resources, MSP Business School to teach MSPs how to run a great service desk. But the way that you run a service desk today isn't going to be how you run it tomorrow. And that's really hard. It's not just, hey, how do I keep the same good thing going and scale and get more customers? If an MSP isn't fundamentally thinking about how they change the metrics in their service desk, it's scary because I'll get more into it, but it is an exciting time, but it's not a time where you can stay still.
No, I think, whether you're a MSP or a vendor, right? Introductions of some of the new technologies like the advancements in AI as an example, which certainly has been, a cornerstone to what you guys have been doing. But really, when you look around the marketplace, I think everybody's just starting to get their arms around the capabilities and where to leverage them. It's really changing the face of the game and really changing, when you go back to service delivery, what used to be hands-on is becoming a lot more self-serve in a roundabout kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you think about the effects of self-service, it means it should be cheaper to deliver. And it's not just self-service. If there's automation behind it, if you can actually, you think about level 1 tickets, level 2 tickets, like how long until the significant percentage of level 1 tickets are just automatically closed. I'd argue we might already be at that point.
Yeah.
Then you start to get into level 2. Now, if an MSP is doing that today, their margins are probably just silly. They can go do whatever they want and buy a yacht, but pretty soon, and it's already starting, their competitors are going to start lowering their prices because they're able to deliver quality service, and that's a key. It used to be like, okay, the service is self-serve and it's cheap, but it's not quality, so I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Now it is quality. Like a really good MSP can deliver service way cheaper, meaning they can lower their price and go to market and have a really great customer acquisition model. I think a huge positive of that is more companies than ever are going to start using MSP services because they're going to be cheaper and they need it more.
So, there's always been this argument about race to the bottom in this industry, right? We've heard it, over and over about MSPs commoditizing themselves and all that. But I think what you've really hit upon there was the reality was in the past, it was just lowering pricing, which meant eroding margin, which really meant degrading service quality in some cases. But now we're talking about, expanding margin while reducing prices through innovation. And that is a whole different conversation versus, the race to the bottom of the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's not a sad story. It's not to say like, now we're not going to be able to run the same type of business because our margins are tiny and you're going to have 1 million customers. There's so much more to sell. There's so much more to help with. That's the second step, or maybe third or fourth, which is awesome. But first, you got to do it for yourself, right? You've got to make yourself efficient. You've got to use the technology. And again, now you can make a ton of money, so you don't have to do it this second. But pretty soon, if you are the same kind of antique, hand-spun run MSP that's artisanal, like that's not going to be around that much longer.
No, I mean, the paradigm shifts about every 7 to 10 years here in this industry. I've been around just long enough to see a few different waves, right? I go back to where we made all our money selling Exchange servers, right?
Yeah.
So, the industry always changes. But what ends up happening usually is a thinning of the herd too. And what I mean by that is you'll see that a lot of the MSPs that really weren't driving value for their customers ultimately either get rolled up or exit from the industry, and then a new wave comes in and really amps up the game and now takes the whole community to another level. And if you really look at how the MSP community has matured, especially over the last 7 to 10 years, it's been amazing to watch from the outside. Somewhat looking in, I say that as no longer an MSP. But I think what you're getting to, Bobby, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's just you're going to see that the MSPs that start taking the ball and running with it now are going to become some of the more innovative organizations moving forward and really change even the way the businesses they serve do business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you think about metrics like endpoint to technician ratio. See, the average for an MSP today is about 200 endpoints to technician. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, I have 400, I'm perfect. Maybe you don't charge as much. Maybe someone else has 100 endpoints of tech, but they charge 10 times what you charge. So, you've got to have more data to triangulate. But generally, if you're at 200 endpoints of technician today, you probably need to work to get to 400 with the same or similar service and price point and such, so that you're set up for the future to, one, be that trusted advisor to sell AI to your customers, but also to be there when margins start going down and when prices start going down.
Yep. And, I think what this innovation is really allowing a lot of MSPs to do is penetrate deeper into their accounts too. Over at VCIO Toolbox, we're always talking about that. Really, there's never been a better time to take a leadership role within the customers as well. And, we're seeing the industry kind of turn a little bit to looking at numbers, and not just the numbers that you spoke of measuring themselves internally, but also measuring how they're presenting out to their customers. And it's almost become part management consultant, the role as well, where you're dealing a little bit more in budget, fact-finding, costs. Those used to be some taboo conversations in the early days to even have with your customer. But now if you don't understand what it's costing them to operate, their service desk, if you're going to talk about enabling them with AI capabilities as an example, you can't get, without knowing what it costs, you can't get into how we can potentially get a return on that investment that's being made. And customers are much more open to that conversation now too.
100%. And you also have to help them understand the opportunity. I was talking to an MSP who's selling AI to their customers the other day, and they were like, we keep running into this challenge where we're scoping a problem. And so then we go build like a wireframe solution, kind of present it, and then we realize the problem wasn't as big as it was initially scoped for. And so that's a whole another sales process of, you don't like the way your HR works. You don't like the way, onboarding new users is more current MSP. Your sales process, whatever it is, where they're clicking and it's inefficient, you really need to figure out, how do I get to the total opportunity, or even like a reasonable opportunity of what I can automate here? That's a whole new muscle for an MSP sales team to go build.
And I was just about to go down that road. Is there things that Thread's doing to help with sales enablement there? Because even just the talk track is so much radically more different, to use your term, than what was being said before. I could see junior salespeople, as an example, really struggling with that conversation, right? So, I don't know if you've got any thoughts or tips around that.
Yeah, I mean, today we are really focused on helping MSPs automate the work in their service desk, because that's where it needs to start. And it's really helpful when your customers experience AI, like, with our tools, someone can call in or chat or email, and the AI talks to them, and, it's either triaging the ticket or sometimes it's solving the problem. And when it's solving the problem and saying, hey, did you try this? I see in the image that your do not disturb is on your phone. Like, that happened the other day. Someone was like, my phone's not ringing. And the AI said, your do not disturb's on, obviously hit that switch. Now that end user's like a believer. Like, wow, this is crazy. If an MSP can see this end customer has had X amount of tickets closed end to end with AI, they're probably a good one to go talk to about some solutions.
Yeah, and I think that is that's a great one right there, honestly, with the do not disturb, because I bet you if you took a live technician, they would have tried at least 3 more things before looking at the D&D button being the thing, because it's almost like unplug it, replug it, right?
That's
and not the most obvious thing. So even if you think about the unintended byproduct, if you will, of the AI coming to that answer so quickly for them. If it went human, it probably would have taken more steps than it really required, just because humans work in the code that they work in.
Yeah, our brains are incredible, but we can only process and think of so many things at once. We can't look at every single possibility in an instant. Level 3 techs, that really complicated work, like, let's get to it. Humans are doing that stuff. But for the simple stuff that can just be told, hey, try this, or at least, how many tickets come in and someone say, I need help? And then what does an MSP have to do? They have to finally get to the ticket, and then once they do, they have to go try to get a hold of that end user, and then they have to ask them a bunch of questions. And now that it's triage, they have to figure out who to dispatch to and finally get it to a technician, and they do, and now they're solving a problem. That's, at best half an hour, more realistically, maybe a day to get it all the way to like back in touch with that person. Whereas if they say, I need help, and the AI is like, what do you need help with? Okay, it's a password reset. What is the information? Now, like, again, becoming a believer, but that is really hard for an MSP to change if they have a really specific method in place today. I shouldn't say really hard, but it is change.
Well,
And that's what the service
it's
has
a
to
mind
be.
shift chain, a mind shift as well, because when I think through what you just illustrated as a problem, I know, like, when I think back to my technicians, a lot of times it would be like, oh, I think I know that, and their immediate thing is to log into that system, right? And see what's there. And those things all take time, that, where you can see the AI really automating and moving through that process much quickly. But it does change, they always say you can't change the spots on a leopard, right? But the reality is, all of us, I think, are looking at how can I at least reduce some of the spots I might have on my back in this process, and think a little bit more open-minded about the capabilities of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, man, I want to go start an MSP right now. Like, the opportunity is so huge. Just getting over that process change and helping your team get on board with it. We have an AI readiness assessment slide deck that we've been sharing and encouraging MSP owners to do with their teams, because just helping them understand, like, this is exciting. It's going to be a little hard, but we're going to do it. That's kind of the big thing, is like, oh, we're going to try it out. AI gets stuff wrong sometimes, and it's not as much hallucinations as it used to be. Hallucinations aren't really a big deal anymore. But, when you first start using AI, it may set the subtype of a ticket wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't want your team to say, oh, now I can't use this. It's broken. It doesn't work. It's like, all right, let's go dial that in a little bit, train the AI some, and keep at it. Guess what? Your dispatcher probably got it wrong 30 to 40% of the time. Like, humans are way more inaccurate typically.
Well, when you take a step back, right, and you think about the fact that Thread was one of the leaders in using AI, I think, it's like anything that when you're on the early cusp of something, it takes time for the market to catch up and understand the realities, right?
Yep.
Because a big thing you just said there was, we got to dial in, we got to tune it, right? We all know now we can tune the LLM, we can make that, make those adjustments so that will get us better outputs. We can write better prompts. We can do, different things to get things to, get the output that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. Whereas I know 2 years ago, if AI didn't give us what we want, this, a lot of people were, this is garbage. This is a toy. It's cool, but, it's not where it needs to be for prime time. But I think if you just watch the video AIs, you really see how much work's happening behind the scenes and getting things better. I mean, what Sora's done in a few months is, pretty crazy. And when you think that's the easy to digest output, but that's happening at the data level.
It's moving. It's moving so fast. Like, it's moved way faster than we thought it would 12 months ago, and the outcomes are really, really different than earlier this year, even mid-year. To your point, Sora video, like, you can take the ChatGPT app and turn on video and show it what you're looking at and have a conversation. Like, that just came out the other day. It's so freaking helpful. I fixed my furnace using it.
Yeah, and you look at some of that. So right there, you save some money, right?
And I'm not like a hands-on home.
I'm a call the guy.
Yeah, same.
But but that's the reality, right? It's taking things that are, we're doing some things around that right now too, to remove the mundane, right? And really take those things that everybody hates, and can we automate them better? and then can we get a good output, and then know that we'll need to improve on that output, but ultimately we're getting where we want to be, and we're spending more time in the mindful places.
Yeah.
Now we're having the bigger conversations with our customers. I go back to that part management consultant, but now we're really talking about what else do you think we can streamline with you? What other things would you like to see done? For those that are MSPs that really take on AI, obviously you're coming at it from the service desk and supporting the MSP as thread, but I know you see the big vision of, hey, if I could take this and look at my customer and say, what are the mundane tasks you're doing that we can pull out? You want to get sticky with a customer? Go in there and show them how they don't have to hire their next 5 guys.
Yeah, that's right. So again, exciting times. If again, I would love to start an MSP right now. Obviously, it's hard doing MSP. But if you're an MSP and you are listening to this and saying, that's a lot of work. I don't know if I want to do an AI readiness assessment with my team. I don't know if I want to change the way tickets flow through my service desk. It's a great time to sell your MSP. The multiples are great. And I don't mean this like facetiously. Like, if you don't want to do that work, you should sell, because the option of I'm going to keep owning my MSP and put my head in the sand and not try to double my endpoint to technician ratio, that's the sad story in all of this. And I hope it doesn't happen too much, because everyone has the opportunity right now to choose something different.
Well, I think the good news is our industry has always been, one of servants, right? Most of the MSP leaders are accidental entrepreneurs, came into it from other areas of technology, and their goals have always been to advancing what they can do, as an MSP, for their clients. And now you look at that to your statement before about if you don't want to do it, get out. Well, if you don't want to do it, you got to get out, because you're at the peak of your value. It's only going to be declining from here if you don't roll with the tide and get better. So, look hard in the mirror, I guess, right? and make that decision. Bobby, we're getting near the end of our time. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to cover today. I know you were talking about some things that you were exploring at Thread that could be interesting to the end user in the coming year.
We're moving really quickly along with AI. There's, most MSPs can tell us what our roadmap should be and what we should go build. So we're working on doing it faster and building more. We're about to come out with a voice product. We already have about 50 MSPs using it today. When you think about AI voice, the obvious one is AI talking on the phone and doing voicemail and overflow and such. But one thing that we're doing is live transcription on the ticket in the PSA, where it's doing all the manual work, writing the time entry. So that's a really easy place to start. Again, if you just kind of want to think about getting started, you don't have to turn on AI handling all of your service desk problems. There's a whole category of assistive products, we would call them, that are doing things like priority and category and transcription and this stuff that your customers won't even know about. So we're really excited about the voice side of it. We also have a bunch around intelligence, where we're reading through all previous tickets and giving knowledge to the technicians, and then actually writing knowledge-based articles automatically as well.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty fun. There's a lot coming.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be done, and we're just scratching the surface. It's going to be an interesting 24 months in front of us, like the 24 months that we've just come off in this conversation and beyond. Well, Bobby, really appreciate you coming to join us. For those that want to get in touch with Bobby, first I've got Thread. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, we do have the Thread email, web address up right now. If you are watching on YouTube and you're not a subscriber, hit that bell, because we'd love to send you these episodes each week as new ones come out. So go to getthread.com if you want to learn a little bit more there. And then, Bobby, I'm going to pop up your LinkedIn so folks can get in touch directly with you and certainly connect with you and find out more about what's going on in the world of AI. In the meantime, I want to thank you again for joining me. It's always great to have you come on here. It's definitely nice to have you on and have a conversation that isn't just centered around Pitch It, although we love those guys. But really get to talk a little bit more about AI, and I wish you the best and have a great holiday season, man.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Brian. Love everything you guys are doing on MSP Business School and VCAO Toolbox. Look forward to catching up soon.
All right, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the weekend.
You too.
Bye now.